Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Josh Wright, creator of ProPractice Piano Academy. Thanks for tuning in for this free piano technique training. I'm so excited to have you here. Just a quick FYI, this is not live. I wanted to make this convenient for each of you to tune in at various times of the day since I know a lot of my audience lives overseas. A time that might be convenient for me to present might be the middle of the night for you. So regardless of where you live and what time of day you're watching this, I hope you enjoy all of the content I present here. Also, please use that chat box. Let me know where you're from, how old you are, how long you've been playing the piano, and any questions you have as we go. I review all the comments at the end of each day, and your feedback helps me to know what kind of content to include in my future videos. So I just want to say a big thanks in advance for your help with that. A quick overview of this training. This webinar will be 1 hour in length. To begin, I wanted to introduce myself for 2 to 3 minutes to tell you who I am, how I got to where I'm at today, and why I created this training. We will then jump into the 10 unusual tips to take your playing to the next level. These are not only tips that I've seen change my own playing the most, but tips that have changed the lives of thousands of students who have joined my online courses over the years. I've received countless emails from these students telling me these techniques were game changers in their practice sessions. And then, if you guys are okay with it, because I'm giving away so much free value in this training, I'm gonna make an exclusive offer at the end for my premier course, ProPractice Lifetime Access, for anyone who wants to learn more beyond just this free training session. Finally, to close this training, I'll answer a list of some of the most frequently asked questions I receive from students about the course and about piano studies in general. Let's get started. First off, a little bit about me. My name is Josh Wright. I'm 31 years old, based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I've been playing the piano since age 5. I've performed with numerous symphony orchestras, received my doctorate in piano performance, performed concerts throughout the United States and in Europe, and recorded 7 albums, including an album that hit #1 on the Billboard Classical Traditional chart. I started a YouTube channel back in 2009 to help students from around the world with their piano studies, and have grown it to over 70,000 subscribers with millions of views. I've been lucky enough to do masterclasses with some of the most famous teachers and pianists in the world, including Leon Fleischer, Menahem Pressler, and Garrick Olson. But the real highlights of my career, the most life-changing moments, have been the one-on-one lessons with each of my 3 amazing teachers, Susan Duhlmeier, Sergei Babayan, and Logan Skelton. These are 3 of the finest teachers alive today, and the techniques and strategies they have taught to me have helped me learn what it takes to practice, prepare, and perform at a very high level. After learning all of this valuable information, I went onto YouTube and searched other online resources, only to find that there was a serious lack of high-quality, top-end training available to help people in their piano studies. I've made it a life goal to help as many pianists as possible with the revolutionary techniques these brilliant pedagogues have given to me. And I'm super excited to share my 10 unusual tips to 10x your piano skills right now. Okay, let's just establish this right here, right now. Finger staccato is most likely the best bang for your buck out there. I was originally not gonna include this in the training because I thought, oh, everybody probably does this already. But member after member of the ProPractice Lifetime Access group wrote to me saying that this is the greatest technique I've taught them and that they've seen more improvement from doing this exercise than any other exercise. As one member, Susan, put it, simply release one key before playing the next. Another member said, that image you gave of plucking a guitar string completely changed the way I thought of piano technique in general and has helped me in so many areas of my playing. This method is so simple, but you'd be amazed at how many students have technique problems and how many of those problems are solved by applying it. Let's jump into an intermediate level piece I cover in the course, Solfeggiato by C.P.E. Bach, to demonstrate, but keep in mind, this can be applied at the most basic or the most advanced levels of piano playing. All right, let's take a look at Solfeggiato. And I'm going to immediately start demonstrating with that finger staccato. What this is doing is activating those fingertips. Again, think of that plucking guitar string as you play that. When you increase your tempo, more notes are squeezed into a small amount of space. So if you're at a really fast prestissimo tempo, you can really get going. And the reason you can do that is because of this finger staccato, because as Susan said, you quickly get off one note before you go on to the next. So even if your finger staccato isn't quite as sharp as mine yet, if it's like a little stickier like that, that's still going to help you get cleaner releases. When you go to put it back with legato, it's just activating those fingertips. Babayan would always tell me, Joshua, you must have active fingers. So remember that when you're using finger staccato. Let's switch gears for tip number 2. This needs to be something that you start doing immediately after you learn the notes and rhythm in a piece. And it's something that many students don't do. It's called voicing. And I have 3 tricks to help you get good at voicing in a matter of hours, not months or years. Voicing refers to the act of bringing out your melody line louder than your accompaniment. Don't write this one off ever, because I'm telling you, you will never sound like a pro until you have this one mastered. And the best news, it's not that hard to master if you use these 3 tips. Let's take a look at an advanced repertoire piece from the course, Chopin's 3rd Etude from Opus 10. The reason we're gonna look at this may be a bit selfish on my part. It's the first piece I ever learned voicing with, so it holds a lot of sentimental value for me. But remember, even if you're playing a simple hymn, Old MacDonald Had a Farm, or Prokofiev Concerto No. 2. You need to learn effective voicing. All right, 3 tricks for voicing. The first one is the one I mentioned Susan taught me, and it's very simple. What you do is you play very loud, forte, legato on your top line, so meaning everything's connected. So this beautiful Chopin Etude. You notice you want that top line to sing. So this is your top line. This is your melody line. We're just gonna do 2 measures to save time today and go through each of these tricks. The first trick, keep that top line legato and forte while the accompaniment is very soft and staccato. We are not looking for beauty at this point. We're just looking to get the extremes with the dynamic differences between those voices. Trick number 2. This is something that a colleague of mine at the University of Utah taught me back when I was a student. He told me, think of just jutting the melodic finger down a little bit more and keeping the accompaniment fingers a little bit higher. This is more of a mental trick, but physically, if you feel like that's coming down lower, it can help. So if my hand was being held here, my top fingers that are voicing the melody might be jutting down, I don't know, a centimeter or 2 lower, so that you keep those other ones a bit more shallow. Be careful with that, because you can start to get ghost notes, or in other words, notes that aren't sounding on your accompaniment. Trick number 3 is actually another mental trick that I just learned a few months ago from a student up at the university. And he said, Dr. Wright, would it be okay if I just thought of my melodic line as being made of metal and my accompaniment as being made of very soft rubber? And I said, oh my gosh, that's a great way of thinking about it. Absolutely. And I've been teaching it ever since. So thank you, Michael, for that suggestion. And you can see, you already start to hear that melody come out much more easily. This is a method that takes a matter of hours to start applying and getting good at, rather than weeks and months and sometimes even years, where students will come to me and they'll say, oh, how do I do that? And then I show them these and it's like a light bulb went off. It works. Do it. All right, those of you who are beginners might be thinking, this guy just teaches advanced stuff. I just started playing my first C major scale. Can I really do finger staccato and voicing? Yes, you can, and you need to because it will help you get better so much faster. But speaking of scales, I want to get back to basics here with an awesome new trick I learned from one of my late beginner students about 2 years ago. This method has already helped a few of my students increase their scale speed by over 20 to 40 metronome clicks in just a matter of 1 to 2 months, which if you've hit a wall with your scale speed, you know how amazing that kind of result is. It's called the Pier Note method, but I'm going to make a small change and call it the boiling Pier Note method. There's an amazing book by Heinrich Neuhaus, one of the greatest piano teachers in history, called The Art of Piano Playing. In the book, Neuhaus describes how practicing can be like boiling a pot of water. The water doesn't actually become pure until it comes to a boil. When playing a given tempo in a given section, we want to boil it. In other words, get the passage absolutely perfect before moving on, even if you're in a very slow tempo. Moving on to the Pier Note method, piers are just convenient ways of sectioning off a 4-octave scale. Each pier will contain 9 notes, and the first and last note will end on a metronome click. Let me show you what I mean at a slow tempo, metronome marking 50, 4 notes per click. Okay, C major, metronome marking 50, 4 notes per click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Okay, this is the beginning of the next pier. Okay, the E is the beginning of the next pier. Okay, we're going to cycle back around to the F. Okay, and all together smoothly. By starting and ending on each click, you're reinforcing perfect alignment with the metronome with every single pier. Furthermore, the most important thing is that a section that small isn't intimidating. This is something that I see time and time again with students. They take way too big of sections and make little to no progress. I want you to sear the last note of each pier into your memory, which also happens to be the first note of the next pier. This note is your stopping point, and it should be memorable. And there is some good news. The first and last note of each pier are incredibly easy to remember. If you're in the key of C major, you'll count up 9 notes to a D. The next pier will start on a D and go up to an E. The next pier will start on an E and go to an F. The next pier, the highest pier, starts on an F and cycles back down and around to that same F. So let's repeat those notes back. We start on a C, then we go to a D, then an E, then an F. Do you notice something about that sequence? It's just the first 4 notes of the scale that I'm playing. C, D, E, F. It's pretty easy to remember. So if you're in D major, for instance, your piers will fall on D, E, F sharp, and G. Remember to boil each pier. Get each pier to a tempo that is equal to or preferably higher than your end goal. Let me show you with an easy scale, B major, at a really high tempo, stopping on each pier, then playing the entire scale smoothly. This is metronome marking 184, 4 notes per click. All right, really turning up the heat on B major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna stop on each pier. And I lifted off on those notes so that you guys could hear exactly where I ended. Feel free to also stop and hold those notes like this. Okay, and it doesn't matter how many clicks you wait in between. I was waiting about, I think, 3 clicks between each, so it felt like it was on the 4th one. Okay, now the whole scale smoothly after practicing the piers. One more time, a little cleaner. By the way, as a side note, I just want to say that the dual camera angle you're seeing in my demonstrations is the same format as all of the Pro Practice videos in the course. So you'll always have the side angle and the overhead angle so you can see everything that's going on from 2 different vantage points. Let's move on to my unusual tip number 4, something that Sergey Babayan demonstrated in a lesson one time and which has stayed with me ever since. He didn't have a name for it, but I like to call it the nocturne method, and it will help you play any passage more expressively. A lot of students have trouble knowing where to get louder or softer, where to crescendo, where to diminuendo, where to take time, etc. My first piece of advice is to always listen to recordings and to develop your ear that way so you continue to become more critical in your expressive approach. However, beyond that, and beyond following what the composer writes, there is so much left to interpretation, and it really confuses a lot of students. They get caught up in speed, playing the right notes, they start focusing solely on rhythm, or a myriad of other issues. However, I find that most students, even beginners, have good instincts. Rather than playing everything robotically, when we apply the nocturne method using our instincts, it will immediately make things more expressive. I remember Babayan saying in his amazing accent, "Pretend this passage is Chopin Nocturne and play it just as lyrically, just as beautifully." Let's take a look at one of the Bach preludes from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1, the prelude in D minor, to demonstrate this approach. Here's how the first 2 measures of the piece goes. Okay? And applying the nocturne method, what we're going to do is we're going to freely use pedal, which we won't do in our end result. Again, this is a practice method to get you to play more expressively. Okay, so feel free to use pedal, lots of rubato, the pushing and pulling of time. We're going to make it super romantic sounding to allow our instincts to guide us where we want to get bigger and where we want to come down. In Baroque music like this Bach piece, we're probably not going to be taking almost any rubato, the pushing and pulling of time, but practicing that way helps us feel the natural swells and valleys in the line. It's pretty clear how that could be one of the interpretations that we could use. So when we go to put it back with our correct articulation and nice even tempo, we still have all those fragments, those nuances that we just prepared using the nocturne method. That's much more interesting to listen to than something completely flat. So that's the nocturne method. How are you feeling so far? Are you keeping up with all of these tips? Well, get ready for a crazy ride because steps 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all based around the same concept. You may be thinking, what single concept could be that important that 40% of this training is monopolized by it? Before I tell you what it is, I'm going to tell you what it will help you fix. It will help you play faster. It will help you play lighter. It will help you play looser. It will give you more freedom of expression. And guess what? It's the #1 requested topic in the thousands of emails I receive from students all around the world each year. Can you guess what it is? If you thought reducing tension, then you'd be correct. Out of the 26 years I've been playing piano and probably the 40 or 50,000 hours I've spent at the piano over those years, whether it be practicing, performing, recording, or teaching, I'm about to show you my 4 favorite methods I've learned to get rid of tension. Each of these can be applied to any situation, but I find that the first tip is best for passage work, meaning scales, arpeggios, things that have a continuous flowing texture. The other 3 exercises help in getting rid of tension with chords, octaves, or anything that feels more spread out. So let's dive into my unusual tip number 5, free hands for passage work. We will take a beginner technique exercise from the course. Let's do Hanon exercise number 10 to demonstrate this important concept. I'm going to go ahead and just play 3 bars of this for you smoothly. Okay, a lot of students might feel tight, especially that 3-4 down here. That's a place where I've seen a lot of students get tight. What you do is you shake as if you're playing vibrato on a violin, you know, as they play like that. That's what you're going to do. when you play each note. You're going to kind of shake out your hands while you're still holding the note. The reason we're doing this is so we don't get into any locked hand positions. We don't want... A lot of beginners think, oh, I should lock my hands because then I'm right on top of the correct notes. But actually you want to release the tension every time you feel one of those hammers hit the string. So we'll do this. It's kind of awkward. I'm mostly shaking the hand, kind of turning the hand this way and kind of pulling it side to side a little bit. That's how I'm executing it. When you first do it, it's very weird, but over time it gets easier. Okay, and then you want to abbreviate that. And then don't shake at all, but still feel the natural release of the finger every time you feel that hammer hit the string. Moving on to unusual tip number 6. I call this one free hands for chords. It's accomplishing the same thing as free hands for passage work, but with the distinction that it's going to help you with any type of stretched out passage, whether it be consecutive chords, sixths, octaves, etc. Let's take a look at how to apply this technique that has helped every one of my private students play with more ease and flexibility using a really tough advanced example from the course, Liszt's Paganini Etude number 6. By the way, the piece goes like this. So you may have heard that. There's a variation later on that goes like this. I'll go really slow to show you. So difficult. And so, and left hand. So difficult. So, okay, I'm going to show you a few things to get rid of that tension that you can apply of these next 3 methods. But this first method, free hands for chords, all you're going to do is you're going to release the tension into a neutral hand position, like that. Feel like you're plucking those keys, kind of like finger staccato, but you're coming up into this position. Helps you so you're not locked like that. You might not be able to perceive it when you're just watching me demonstrate, but what's happening is when I'm playing that, I'm actually releasing the tension between each of those chords because I've practiced, and same thing in the left hand. Releasing into that neutral position. So that is an amazing chord exercise that can really help you loosen up even in the toughest of passages. Unusual tip number 7 is the single greatest chord exercise I've ever learned, and I'm warning you, it's very strange and very weird. It was taught to me by master pianist and teacher Sergei Babayan when I was playing the Grand Polonaise by Chopin. Make sure to take careful notes with everything I'm about to say, because if you miss even one step, this exercise can be totally pointless. I remember it being quite awkward in the lesson when I first learned it. You'll see why in a second. But after about a week of practicing it, I had it down, and I can honestly tell you, I've never found an exercise that will help you play with more looseness and more ease than this. It totally frees up the wrist in a way I've never been able to replicate with any other exercise, and it changed my life at the piano. He didn't have a name for it, but I've decided to call it the up-down exercise. All right, jumping into the Chopin Grand Polonaise opening, which is one of the hardest passages I've ever come across in music, to demonstrate the up-down exercise. Let me just play for you for a second, and then we will demonstrate the exercise. Let me tell you, that is insanely difficult because chords are awkward and they're going so fast. So what you do, like I said, grab a pencil and paper. Do not miss any of these steps. Okay, start on the key. come back to the point where your palm is pretty much vertical, going to the ceiling. It's going to be not hitting your face, but coming back. A lot of people just go here, and then their wrist starts hurting. You don't want to do that. You want to lift with your arm slightly, bring it back to here. Then you're going to throw into the next position and land, and that's it. Okay, so up, throw down. Okay, now one fluid motion, up, down. Okay, next chord. Sometimes you'll hit a note by accident. You'll go when you're first learning. That's okay. That's better than being too cautious and doing this, which is the most common problem I see with the up-down exercise. People go. They don't throw their hand back down. The whole point of this exercise, again, is to loosen that wrist, to create an electric impulse, so you can get into each of those positions. Let's go to unusual tip number 8. This is something I only discovered in February of 2019, and I actually invented the exercise for one of my university students who has small hands. She's a brilliant student who was applying the free hands for chords exercise along with the up-down exercise to her piece that was full of chords and stretched out passages, but these exercises still hadn't fixed her issues. I thought, what could be going wrong? What is it about the free hands and the up-down exercises that aren't working? After some thought, I figured it out. Free hands completely neutralizes the hand. Up-down is more of an exercise for loosening the wrist. But for fast tempos and chords that are moving quickly, especially chords that stretch out the hand, these exercises didn't solve the necessary issue, which is the need for efficiency of movement. In other words, how can we be totally loose in fast passages with stretched out chords? I call this exercise the hand abandon exercise, and you'll see why as soon as I demonstrate. Just so we cover all of our bases with different skill levels in this training, let's demonstrate with some 7th chords that I teach in the intermediate section of the course. We'll take a major 7 chord in the key of G, so the notes we'll be dealing with are G, B, D, F sharp. We will also do all of the inversions, which simply means a reordering of the chord. I go through all the fingering in every chord and every key within the course, but to save time today, I'm just going to jump right into the demonstration. Let me just start by playing through this for you without the hand abandon exercise. Okay, pretty basic. What the hand abandon exercise is great at doing is relieving tension in tiny little increments. So if this is a stretch for you, what you're going to do is you're just going to relax it in. So think of the position you have when you're going on a walk, your hand position, and your hand's just hanging down at your side. You don't have to collapse it that much, but there comes a point, okay, I'm stretching. Okay, now, right there and beyond, I feel tension in my hand in order to reach those bigger spans. So if you are reaching your span, that largest hand span or close to it, if you feel any stretching going on, that means that you need to relieve some of that tension. For me, I have to practice this a lot when I play tenths. So what I'll do is I'll collapse in just slightly. It's almost like I'm just pinching in a little bit. So if you're going to almost an octave, G to F sharp, maybe your hand will come into a 6th. Okay, so your pinky and your thumb. Okay, and then you get into the next position. Again, this differs from free hands. We're not neutralizing. We're not doing a pop of the wrist. We're just relaxing the hand. And one clarification I wanted to make, when I made a video for this student on this concept, she said, do I just relax and then move my hand, or do I move it simultaneously? And I said, any type of simultaneous movement that you can do is better because it will help you with efficiency of movement. So, and pretty soon, you'll notice that you're getting around the keyboard with more ease and more fluidity than you ever imagined. I've saved another biggie for the end here, as no Josh Wright training would be complete without a discussion of this. Unusual tip number 9 discusses rhythms. Some of you may have heard about rhythms, the common practice of applying a syncopated rhythm in order to ironically make the section more even, but most teachers stop after a simple long, short rhythm, which would look like this. Or hands together. The reason that rhythms are so helpful is that they help you master a tiny portion of material at a time. For example, in the long, short, long rhythms, you're basically playing two notes really fast when you play the short, long. Or in other words, you could count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is a type of 2 rhythm because it's just dealing with 2 notes. But like I said, most teachers stop there. I want you to do every possible type of rhythm with 2 rhythms, 3 rhythms, 4 rhythms, and 5 rhythms. Let's demonstrate with a piece I cover in the intermediate repertoire section of the course, Beethoven's Fürelise, and take one of the places that frequently gives students a tough time, the A minor arpeggio section. Hold on tight because I'm going to go super quick through each of these different types of rhythms. Keep in mind, there are 2 types of 2 rhythms, 3 types of 3 rhythms, 4 types of 4 rhythms, and 5 types of 5 rhythms. Let me show you now. Okay, and we will actually just stop when we get to that chromatic line. You can absolutely apply these 2 through 5 rhythms to that chromatic line as well. But what I often hear is students will do this. And these rhythms will help to solve any type of issues you're having with pausing or clumping notes. Kind of awkward because they're written in triplets, okay? Now, you could say, okay, I just did short, long, now I'm gonna do long, short. An easier way of thinking about this, and it will apply a lot more in the 3, 4, and 5 rhythms, is to just count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then get rid of your first note. It will then be long, short, long. Hopefully that makes sense. So I just get rid of my A, and I just do. Okay? The next one is 3 rhythms. Okay, and my fingering probably wasn't the best there. I'd probably use a more open fingering. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5. It's better. Or 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 5 is good. Okay? Delete the first note. Start on the second note and do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, start on the third note. Oh, had a little blemish there. That's okay. That's why we're doing this. Okay, it fixed. Okay, 4 rhythms. Okay, 4 rhythms starting from the second note. Some of these just don't feel all that natural. That's why these are so good. It challenges you by doing every variation of each rhythm. It challenges you with different sequences of notes. That's why we're doing this. Okay, from the third note, I believe. Okay, from the fourth note. Okay, from the now we're doing 5 rhythms starting on the first note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, you want to do these rhythms in your final tempo or even slightly beyond it. If you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can do that to start with just to get used to the rhythm, but that's only going to help you play it this fast. You need to really... To help you prepare, you need to go that fast. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second note. Third note. Fourth note. Fifth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got that. Okay, those are 2 through 5 rhythms. All right, unusual tip number 10. It's a combination of 2 methods, cycling and inserting gaps. Each of these methods are absolutely incredible on their own, but together they seem to fix any issue that hasn't already been solved by any of the other 9 unusual tips I've already mentioned. It's similar to a method I call add-on, basically taking small bites of material and adding them together, but it takes it to a whole new level. I want to give 2 examples, one beginner and one advanced, from 2 very popular pieces I cover in the course. The first will be the Bach Minuet in G major, BWV Anhang 116, that's a mouthful, and the other will be Chopin Etude in A flat major, Opus 25 number 1, often referred to as the Aeolian Harp Etude. Please realize that even if you're playing the toughest pieces in the piano repertoire, this works just as well as these 2 examples that some of you may not consider to be all that difficult. The combination of these 2 methods helped me overcome the greatest difficulties I faced in the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3, a recording you can check out on YouTube if you're interested. Let's talk about cycling first, then we'll talk about inserting gaps and how they can effectively be used together. We'll start with the Bach Minuet. This is the piece I'm talking about. Let's say that you're struggling with just this figure. And you do it, and maybe your fingers do this. Or maybe you have gaps all over. Maybe your fingers just aren't working. Go through your finger staccato, go through those rhythms. But beyond that, this is one of my favorite methods. Cycling has to do with playing a small portion that fits pretty much into a hand position over and over and over. You could do this. You could do this. You could do this. Eventually, we want to work into one full hand position, which would be 1, 2, 3, 5. Notice I don't change direction in there. It feels like one fluid motion. Okay, now the next little part. This is cycling. You could even make it continuous. First part. Second part. Okay, you've mastered each of those hand positions by cycling them over and over again. They feel even, they feel good. Now, inserting gaps comes in. Inserting gaps comes into play when you have blemishes in your playing. So like, okay, or that type of thing. What we're going to do is we're going to insert an artificial gap into here. This is my favorite technique, by the way. It works for me all the time. I use this almost daily when I struggle with technique. So, lift my hand. Okay, now I'm going to slowly erase that pause. This comes from Logan Skelton, by the way, so you can all email him and thank him. And we go over it a lot in the course. See how I just slowly erased that? All right, let's jump over to the Chopin Etude, Opus 25, number 1. I'm going to take off the pedal and show you how it should be played. Well, without the pedal. Of course you're going to play it with pedal, but I'm going to demonstrate a good rendering. Fingers have to be really active like that. So many students bring it to me like this. Things are clumped up, it's messy, it just sounds terrible. Cycling and inserting gaps can help you with that. So here, you could again do small portions. But you could probably clump those 4 into one cycle. And then it works great. And that's going to help me play more fluidly, more clearly, and it's going to keep things organized in my mind. A lot of times when you have a very complex passage, you panic, and then your hand prepares in advance, which is a terrible thing actually, in most cases with piano, to prepare in advance, because it forces your previous figure to tense up. in preparation for that next one. So cycling and inserting gaps will help you get rid of that. I hope you use this all the time. It will change the way you play, I promise. So there they are, my 10 unusual tips to take your piano playing to the next level. Knowing them simply isn't enough though. You have to get into the practice room and study them, review them, master them. I promise you they can totally transform your piano skills because, speaking first and foremost from my own experience, I've developed more ease, expressiveness, speed, relaxation, and overall improvement of my skills by applying these very methods I've taught you today. I've also seen them change the lives of hundreds of students I've worked with in private lessons, as well as tens of thousands of people online who have watched my tutorials and joined my courses. Remember, practice makes perfect. So now I want to dive into ProPractice Lifetime Access, my premier online course, to give you an idea of what the full program includes for anyone who enjoys my teaching style, has gotten a lot of value out of this webinar, and would like to learn a whole lot more. The ProPractice Lifetime Access course contains over 125 videos to date and over 65 hours of video content, and I'm adding new content to it every month. So far as content goes, here's a quick look at how the course is structured. I have a technique and a repertoire section for each part of the course, divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. I also have a resources section within each of these levels, which gives you supplemental materials, practice instructions, a link to a physical copy of the music on Amazon if you prefer hard copies of your books, or a link to a quality online score that's free. That's right, I link all of the sheet music for every piece in the course, so you don't have to spend a dime on sheet music if you don't want to. In each level, the technique section will address the methods and techniques that I would be teaching you if you were coming to my personal studio for lessons. I walk you through step by step on how to practice each exercise and the most efficient ways to get better, faster in your technical work. The repertoire section takes a deep dive into each of the pieces I cover, going over many of the basics such as counting and fingering where necessary, and then takes you through the more advanced concepts of voicing, dynamics, rubato, expression, and nuances that will help you take that piece to the next level. One of my big goals with this course is to help save you more money in terms of time, money, and frustration than you pay for the course, including time saved in lessons going over fingering, dynamics, expression, and other technical strategies, as well as practice efficiency, sheet music costs, and more. I also have a few other bonus discounts and perks for members as well. So whether you're an aspiring concert pianist or just playing for fun, I want this course to be both inspiring and economical. As one member, Jonathan, from the Lifetime Access course put it, Dr. Wright's ProPractice series is a great source of technical insight on piano practice and performance. However, it is so much more. A source of motivation and inspiration for pianists of all ages and all skill levels. Moreover, the large quantity of high-quality videos is an excellent opportunity for hobbyists as well as aspiring professional pianists to discover a wide variety of repertoire through the detailed demonstrations. All in all, I recommend it wholeheartedly. Like I talked about earlier, I credit a lot of my success to the fact that I had Susan Duhlmeier, Sergei Babayan, and Logan Skelton as my personal mentors along the way. So I'm happy to be a resource and mentor along your musical journey as well. You're welcome to email me with your questions so I can help you improve your skills. As a member, you'll also have access to our private Facebook group where we have members from numerous countries across the world. Another bonus I include is a training all about how to become a successful online musician. So if you're a teacher who's looking to grow their studio or expand their online presence, or if you're just a piano hobbyist looking to more effectively share your music online, I go over my entire workflow for being effective on social media, how to set up Skype lessons to grow your online studio, and finally, some advice on creating online courses. I'm obviously incredibly passionate about online learning and teaching, so with this training, you'll get some mentoring and instruction on the business and marketing side of things as well. So there it is. That is what the ProPractice Lifetime Access course includes. It's a lifetime membership, so there's only one upfront cost, and you will have access to all of the current content and all future content for life. You can watch at your own pace from your phone or your computer. And just that alone, just the content that exists in the course right now, in the opinion of many of our members, is worth more than a semester of music school, which could cost you upwards of $5,000. My personal music education, between my 3 degrees, all of the lessons I've personally paid for and which my parents paid for when I was a young kid would total up to well over $150,000. It's been one of my life goals to create a resource for people that either cannot afford a traditional music education, who do not have access in their city to a high-quality teacher, or who just want to learn at their own pace and on their own time. Here are two examples from ProPractice members about what they've gained from the course. One of them, Penelope, from France, is a very high-level player and prepares for big performances regularly. And another member, Alonzo, plays piano for personal enjoyment and satisfaction and was looking for additional resources. Penelope said, I came upon Josh's ProPractice videos as I was searching internet tutorials on the Chopin Etude I was playing then. I found it really amazing. The video went over all the difficult parts of the piece, and Josh explained how he tackled each of them. I felt I really improved after implementing the tips explained in the video. The repertoire covered is beautiful, with all the pieces that one dreams of playing. Alonzo said, I am a self-taught pianist who has struggled for many years to play most of my favorite pieces by Chopin on a technical level. With Josh's lessons, I've been able to understand the mystery behind Chopin's genius, sometimes how making a simple rotation of the hand can mean the difference between 4 hours of unsuccessful practice and 5 minutes of brilliance. My hat's off to this outstanding teacher. So without further ado, we will finally get to the price of the full program, and as promised, I'll be offering an exclusive webinar discount for those of you who have hung around to the end of this training. So as valued by our current members, this program is worth well over $5,000. To put this in perspective, most piano professors and professional pianists around the United States charge anywhere between $100 to $300 per hour for a lesson, depending on their notoriety, their demand, and their time constraints. Sure, some of them charge more, some charge less, but I found that to be a pretty accurate average. So with over 65 hours of content in the course, and we'll go ahead and stick with the low end of those figures at $100 per hour, the course would be valued at $6,500. If you were to take 1 year, or about 50 weeks of lessons from an inexpensive local piano teacher charging $30 per lesson, you would pay $1,500 for a year of lessons. And let me tell you, I can't think of many piano teachers who are going to teach you the methods that I've personally paid tens of thousands of dollars to learn from some of the world's finest teachers. I currently have the course priced at $1,400, but as an early bird special, while the program is still growing, I am selling it for just $799. Or for those who can't afford that upfront cost, I have a 6 monthly payment plan of $149 per month as well. But as an even better offer, as a webinar discount only, anyone who joins during the last 8 minutes of this webinar, where I'll be answering some frequently asked questions, will get an additional 25% off by clicking on the link that I will provide here in a second. And once you click on the link, it will take you to this custom discount page. Click the button, set up an account with your email and password, and then you'll see the 25% off discount already factored in. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the offer. Like I said, this offer is good for the next 8 minutes, and here we go. All right, while that offer is ticking, I will be answering some of the top questions I get asked during these webinars and from students around the world. First question, how often do you post new content to the course, and are you mostly posting beginner, intermediate, or advanced content? With the launch of the ProPractice Lifetime Access course in 2018, we've experienced major growth, and I've been able to dedicate more time than I used to be able to with creating new tutorials. I generally post a new video every month, as each video takes me a while to plan out, film, edit, and upload, and I divide up the content fairly equally between levels. You'll see a heavier amount of tutorials in the advanced section, since I'm mostly focused on that for the first 2 years of ProPractice back in 2014 to 2016. But with the recent launch of the Lifetime Access course, I've created over 30 beginner level tutorials and over 40 intermediate level tutorials, so there will be plenty to focus on while the library continues to grow. Going forward, I will divide the video requests equally between the 3 sections. And since these videos are so in-depth and extensive, I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have about your repertoire over email if the video is not already included in the library. How do you divide up your practice sessions to be most efficient? How much time should I dedicate to technique, sight reading, and repertoire each day? I have an entire video going over this in detail that is included in the resources section of the course, but here are a few pointers for you before you watch that video. Let's use 1 hour of practice a day, 5 days a week as a baseline. I would recommend practicing technique for 20 minutes, sight read for 10 minutes, and spend the remaining 30 minutes on 1 or maybe 2 repertoire pieces. For each 30 to 40 minutes you increase your practice time, feel free to add another piece. Also, if you're practicing for more than 2 hours per day, feel free to up your technique practice to 30 minutes per day. One of my favorite tips from Susan Dolmeyer was to use your repertoire to improve your technique. So even though you'll do some dedicated work on technique each day, you'll want to choose repertoire pieces that will continue to improve your technique, so you're effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or getting twice the amount of return on your practice time investment. You'll see in the advanced section of the course that I just include etudes under the technique section. While it's okay to continue practicing scales, arpeggios, chords, and other techniques if you're an advanced player, which, by the way, I go over all those skills in the intermediate technique section of the course, I want to help you get to the point of using carefully chosen repertoire pieces to improve your technique. It's kind of like going to the gym. Rather than going to the gym to walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes, hit the weights when you go to the gym and find other areas of your life where you can incorporate those 20 minutes of walking each day. I want this course to help save you as much time and energy as possible, to help you get better as quickly as possible. And this is an efficient strategy to do this. Can I make specific requests for future pro practice videos? Absolutely. I give priority access to members' requests, meaning if some random person from my YouTube channel emails in a request and a lifetime access member emails in a request, I will obviously give my members' requests the priority in which videos I tackle next. I love connecting with each of you and hearing about what you'd like me to cover next. I may not be able to cover every request, especially with lengthy concertos that I haven't personally played, but I do my best to honor your requests, especially with repertoire I've personally played and taught. What's your #1 tip to play faster? I get this question all the time. I would highly recommend applying all of the unusual tips we just went over. However, in order of effectiveness, if I'm really gonna get specific and nitty-gritty, I would first start with finger staccato, then move on to 2 to 5 rhythms, then do the cycling plus inserting gaps methods. That's kind of my go-to sequence I use in my own practicing, and I'd say it fixes things about 95% of the time. Question about the course. How long do I have to complete it? How many times can I go back and re-watch the course? A lot of people continue to ask this question, so I thought I'd quickly cover it again. The upfront payment is the only payment you'll make, and because it is a lifetime membership, that means you will have access to all current and future content for life. It will never expire, and you can watch at your own pace and re-watch as many times as you'd like. What are your favorite memorizing tips? There are so many. I won't have time to include all of them here, but one of my favorites is to memorize backwards using rescue points. Now, you're not gonna go through note by note backwards, but you'll take a small section, maybe the second to last or third to last or fourth to last measure of the piece, and finish to the end. Memorize that. Big deal, right? But that's the important part. You just finished the piece. So once that first small section is mastered, back up another 2 to 4 bars, and just work on those 2 to 4 bars. Once those are mastered, add them to the last 2 to 4 bars of the piece. So you're adding 2 to 4 bars, 2 to 4 bars, now you have 4 to 8 bars. Continue this process, and I think you'll be amazed at how fast your progress can become. Don't just memorize going forward. Go in reverse order, and your brain changes the way it perceives the passage. Additionally, those little 2 to 4 bar sections are your rescue points, or little spots that can help save you in case you mess up during a performance. I can't even tell you how many times a student has messed up in their lesson only to ask, can I start the whole piece over again? Because they didn't know where they were at in the passage. When you use this method, you go through the whole piece in such great detail that you can start at any of these given rescue points, each one being a little memorizing landmark that you can reference in case things aren't going as expected in a performance. Also, a little performance tip, never go back. Always jump forward to your next rescue point. The reason for this is you can get into a vicious loop of messing up the same thing over and over and over. It's tragic for the performer, and it is tough to watch as an audience member. All this can be fixed if you just jump forward to your next rescue point rather than go back. What do you do outside of piano? Since we're on our second to last question and we are at the end of this training, I thought including a personal question couldn't hurt, as people often ask me this. Outside of piano, I enjoy spending time with my beautiful wife and baby daughter, who was born back in 2016. I also enjoy golf, working out, photography and videography, and traveling. Piano has afforded me many amazing opportunities to travel for competitions, festivals, and other performances, which has allowed me to travel to places like Italy, France, England, Poland, Ireland, Norway, Iceland, which is my favorite, Sweden, Denmark, and even Greenland. All right, I didn't actually perform in Greenland, but we lumped it into a trip as I've always wanted to go there, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't been. It is the most raw and untouched beautiful place I've ever seen. Without piano, I highly doubt I would have seen so many beautiful places, which is one of the reasons I'm so grateful to be in the profession I'm in. Last question, if I have specific questions, would I be able to email you those questions? Again, something I've already answered, but something I constantly get asked. For any questions you will have my personal email address where you can send me questions, and I will usually reply within a few days or a week. And to me, that's what separates this program from so many other educational options out there. The personal access to a practicing professional who can help you overcome your stumbling blocks and shorten your learning curve. If you're having specific issues with a particular part of your piece, the best thing to do is to take a quick photo of it with your phone, circle the place you're struggling with in a colored pen or pencil, and include that with your email, as I'll be able to identify the issue much more quickly and respond faster. And speaking of questions, hopefully I've answered most of yours in this training. If I didn't cover some of your questions, feel free to email me at josh@joshwrightpiano.com, and I'll try to get around to those as soon as I can. Also, if you have any other questions or doubts about whether this program is right for you, shoot me an email. I'm super accessible. Let's chat about your situation and see what we can do to help. All right, our offer has officially ended, so procrastinators or people having payment issues, shoot me an email. Again, my email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com if you still want that discounted price, and we'll get you taken care of. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Josh Wright Piano to keep up to date with what's going on with Lifetime Access and any other projects I'm working on or upcoming performances I'm preparing for. I want to wish all of you the best of luck in all of your musical endeavors. Be confident, invest in yourselves, never stop learning and growing. Work harder than everyone else around you, and I promise you, you'll find success. Have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.